So, I'm now in a new scene, and we are ready to start again. I'm going to go to front view, and I'm going to press Control Alt number pad 0, and that just brings the camera to the front view, to where I'm looking. We do not need this cube, and we do not need this light. I have the frame rate the same as my video once again, and I saved out to a certain location. It is going to be PNG this time, since we're going to be doing all the actual editing. Okay? So, if I press N, I can turn on background images, and I'm going to open that clip that we just made, which is this one here. If I play through this, you can see me come up, get shot, and fall down. Great. Okay. So now that we have that done, we can start working on it. Let's go to the frame where it actually starts, where I actually start being hit, which seems to be frame 99, just off 100. At this point, I'm going to add in a plane, and I'm going to align it to view. All the blood is going to come out of this plane, so I'm going to press W and then subdivide. Then I'll select all four corners and just scale them in a little bit. So let's select the entire thing and move it into position. So it's just really moving it until you think it's pretty close to what you want. Remember, if you press R twice, you go into this like trackball type rotation. If you press it once, it just rotates normally. And that's looking pretty close to what we want. So now I'm going to duplicate this and move it forward and scale it down a lot. Put it here. So this is where the blood is going to come out of the front of the head. And that's how it's going to work. Because even if the bullet is going through the head, you're still going to have a little bit going through the front. And just decide where that needs to be. It doesn't need to be completely accurate anyway. And one thing I'd recommend doing is subdividing both of these. Because now we're going to add a displace modifier. If you watched my smoke tutorial, the muzzle flash tutorial, you will know why we're going to do this. And it is to scatter the particles a bit more, make it a bit more random. I think it works really well. So I've added a material. Sorry about that. So rude of some people, huh? No, anyway, it's fine. So we've added this texture, but we're actually going to turn it off, so it's as if it doesn't actually exist. So then it doesn't appear in the material. And we'll add the displace modifier. Displace, God, can't speak properly. And add that texture, and that's the way it looks. Now, it doesn't look brilliant, but that's where the subsurf modifier comes in. So that's looking all right, but I am going to turn down the strength a little bit. We don't need to be nearly that strong. There we go. One other thing I'll do is if I go above here, I'm just going to move this back so it's like the actual head shape. So if we look at it through the camera, it still looks okay. You can just move it to make it exactly the way you want, and that's good enough for me. So all the droplets of blood are going to come out of the faces, not the vertices. So let's add the particles now. I'm going to create this particle system. I'm going to give it 3,000 particles to work with, though this can easily be bumped up, but 3,000 is fine for the moment. And now I have this. Yeah, that's not what we want at all. So the first thing we want to do is change the starting frame to 99 and the ending frame to, say, 103, or even 4, or even 5. That depends how long you want blood to be flowing out of his head. If you want to be a sudden burst, then obviously make it 1 frame. But I think it looks more realistic if it's slower. Now another thing you'll notice is that the particles are coming out from the wrong side on the front of the head. So a simple fix to that is just press W and flip the normals. And there we go. Now it's coming out the right side. Now, as you can see, since it's smaller, there aren't as many particles coming out the back. But you might want less than that, and in that case, just create a new particle system. However, I don't mind it too much. I like it, actually. So, next thing is we don't want it to just fall immediately. It needs to, like, explode. So, simple fix is just turn up the normal for the velocity quite high, and then there we go. Beautiful. And that looks really good. I'm going to turn up even more than that. Maybe a little bit too much. That's pretty good. But if you look at it, it looks a bit too even still. It looks a bit too uniform. So another thing I'm going to do is turn up the random. And that helps it quite a bit. However, now I need to turn down the normal a bit more. And there we go. However, if we render this out, it doesn't exactly look the way we want it to. And we're not actually going to make it look exactly the way we want it to. That's all going to come together in the compositing. But the first thing I want to do is change the name of this material to be invisible. And I'm going to create another material and call it blood. I'll make the invisible material invisible, and the blood material, I'll turn down the specular completely and make it completely red, like so, 100% red. And since there aren't any lights in the scene, I'm also going to turn up the emission to be 1. So now when I render this out, wait 1 second, I'm going to change this to lines as well. Oh, and set it to be blood. Now There we go. That's what it's going to look like. But obviously that isn't great. We don't want the lines to be that long. So just change the tail to be smaller. We want it to look like some sort of droplets. So that looks decent enough. And once we add blur and things like that, it'll definitely come together a lot better. But even still, you can see how it's going to work. Now the reason it's bright red is because it's considered completely white, or as light as can be in the color red. So if we separate the black from the red, on the red's curve it's considered completely white, and therefore it's a complete contrast, and it'll be very easy to separate. That's the best way I can describe it. We'll actually mess around with the color when it comes to the compositing. I'm going to set the number of particles to 0, because one thing I don't like is when it spits particles, they all spit from a point in midair. Now I could track the head, but for 10 frames it's not worth it. So I'm just going to manually keyframe it. I have the object selected already, and it's going to stay there. I'll just move forward one more frame. And then you don't need to move every single frame. Every 2 frames is pretty good too, and it works really well. So just continue moving it along as you would think it would move. And it's pretty straightforward. And it doesn't need to be perfect at all. I'd say that's as much as I'd need. Is it? No. There we go. That's as much as I need. So I'll just turn that back off again. Now if I play through it, it follows. Yeah, that's great. Okay. So now if we play through the entire thing with the particles turned on, let's zoom out and see that again. It sprays a lot better. Definitely. I think I'll turn on the random a little bit. Actually, no, keep that up. Bring down this. It just takes a lot of messing around. And finally, you'll get what you're looking for. And for me, that's pretty close. So let's just render that out and see how it looks. Yep. Okay. That's great. So the next part we're going to do is we are going to create the actual fluid. Not really the fluid, but we're going to create all the big chunks. And this is where it gets really fun.